The cameras click like machine gun fire as you stand frozen behind bulletproof glass. Your smile carved from marble, watching your husband's motorcade disappear into the maze of Washington traffic. But this wasn't how it started. 5 years ago, you were nobody special. A communications director at a mid-tier consulting firm, good at your job, but invisible in the grand scheme of things. You attended charity galas because networking mattered, not because you belonged there. Then you met him at a fundraiser in Manhattan. Not the current him, the version that shakes hands with foreign dictators and signs legislation that moves mountains. This was the businessman version, the one who still laughed at your jokes and asked follow-up questions about your day. The courtship was a whirlwind of private jets and weekend trips to places you'd only seen in magazines. He was charming, attentive, surprisingly vulnerable when the cameras weren't watching. The first compromise was small. He asked you to quit your job after the engagement. You signed the prenup without reading it, your lawyer assuring you it was standard. But later you'd realize you'd agreed to disappear if this didn't work out. The wedding was a state event disguised as a personal celebration. 300 guests, most of whom you'd never met, watched you pledge eternal devotion in a dress that cost more than your father's annual salary. The cameras captured every angle. The footage would be studied, analyzed, turned into memes and conspiracy theories. But in that moment, when he lifted your veil and whispered, "We did it," instead of "I love you," you felt the first cold finger of understanding touch your spine. The presidency changed everything, but not in the way you expected. You thought power would feel like freedom, unlimited resources, global influence, the ability to shape the world. Instead, it felt like being entombed in gold. Every word you spoke was scrutinized. Every outfit was decoded for hidden messages. Every facial expression was screenshot and dissected by strangers who'd built entire ideologies around their interpretation of your marriage. But here's where it gets worse. The more famous you became, the more you disappeared. Your husband, now leader of the free world, stopped seeing you entirely. The point of no return came during the state dinner with the prime minister of somewhere you couldn't pronounce. You sat between two men discussing arms deals while you smiled and nodded, your diamond earrings catching the light like tears you weren't allowed to shed. That night you stood in the Lincoln bedroom and felt like you were drowning in silk and history. You'd achieved every fantasy version of success American culture had ever sold you. The false victory came when your approval ratings hit an all-time high. 68% of Americans viewed you favorably. The staff congratulated you like you'd won something important. You stood there accepting their praise, nodding graciously, and felt absolutely nothing. You'd become so good at being the perfect political wife that you'd forgotten how to be a person. Now you're here, in the White House residence, surrounded by priceless art and fresh flowers that are replaced before they can wilt. Your husband is downstairs in the Oval Office, making decisions that ripple across the globe. You are the most envied woman in America, living the ultimate power fantasy, and you've never felt more invisible. The cameras outside are still clicking, still watching, still waiting for you to do something worth capturing.